everybody. I'm Lannis Smith with the Lesley Science and Nature Center, here to bring you one of our workshops for the scientific method. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to utilize some of our wildlife from the Lesley Science and Nature Center to help us practice and learn more about the scientific method. Now, part of my job typically revolves around the care of these animals. So it's really cool that we get the chance to show you how this concept works by using some of our residents here at our nature center. And today, the snake that I have in my hand, this snake's going to help us understand how the scientific method works. Now, some of you might already know what the scientific method is, but if you don't, it's really a step-by-step process that scientists or anybody that is curious about something uses to help answer a very specific question. And there's usually up to 6 steps that scientists can use to help them discover or answer their question. So today, what we'll do is we'll try to go through all 6 steps by answering one question about the snake. Even if you have many questions, that just means that we can have more discoveries later on. Now, the 6 steps are as follows. We're going to go to a different camera to show you how it works. Usually the 6 steps that we have are observing something, whether it's something you know a lot about or are curious about, having a question about what you observed, developing something we call a hypothesis, which is really a guess or a guessed answer to your question based on what you observed. We're going to do an experiment and collect some data of what we see. We're going to share our results, and then we're going to develop what's called our conclusion to help us understand the answer to this question. Now, in order to do that, first thing we have to do is kind of go through those steps in order. So first thing we'll do then is observe this guy. Now, I won't tell you the name of this snake, but we know that snakes are reptiles. They have these really dry, scaly skin. And when you're observing something, like either the color, the skin type, or how this animal is moving, it's also great practice to write or draw what you see. A lot of times, I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to remember things. And so to help me remember what I'm recording or what I'm looking at, I'll actually use something like a nature journal or a notebook, maybe even a piece of paper and some crayons, and actually write or draw what I'm watching. So now's your chance while observing the snake to either draw what it looks like or maybe look at the colors that you see. You can write what it's doing. It's actually balancing on my hand really well right now. Snakes also stick their tongue out to smell what's around him. He's doing a great job at sticking his tongue out at the camera right now for you guys. It's also a very long snake. A lot of physical features are great to observe too. He has a really long, thin body with kind of these orange and black dots on him. He looks very much like Halloween, or a Halloween snake, if you will. And it almost looks like he has a lot of muscle power since he can hold on to just one of my arms really easily. And I'm just saying all this stuff out loud because these are potential observations that you might see, but this is at least what I noticed or what I'm looking at when I'm watching or observing the snake. This is also your time to write or think of questions then that you have about him, because your observations help you into the next step of our experiment, which is asking a question. We might think of, why is this snake so long, or why is he this color? You might be thinking of where he lives, or what does this snake eat? What's its name? Those are all really great basic questions, and hopefully our experiment can help answer some of those too. All right, we've done a lot of observing. We're watching him move around a lot. He's a pretty active snake. Maybe that means he's awake during the day. That was one of your questions, of thinking when he's awake. But now we're going to pick one of those questions, and we're going to try to do our experiment based on that question. And the question we are going to try to answer today is, where does this snake live? Where do we find this snake? What habitat does it live in? Now, in order to do that, what we have to think of is maybe a guess first. Before we even do our experiment, we have to guess where we think it lives. And we do that based on the things you observed. You can actually go back to if you wrote or draw something when you were observing this, or even if you're looking at the snake now. If I were to try to guess where the snakes live, I'm going to guess that it lives in the jungle. And I'm going to make that guess because I observed that the snake has a really long body. It has these orangish bright colors, and there's a lot of bright colors in the jungle. And I observed that he's balancing on my hand really well, almost as if I was a tree branch. And so I'm going to say, based on what I see the snake doing and some of those other physical features I were looking at, I'm going to guess this snake lives in a jungle habitat. You might also be thinking a wetland habitat. Maybe the snake is a really good swimmer. Maybe you're thinking it lives in the desert because it has this orange color like the sand. Or maybe you're thinking that it's a snake that lives in Michigan. The one thing to remember is this. When we make our guess, do our experiment, and then get the answer to our question, if our guess was wrong, that's okay. Scientists are wrong 99% of the time, but doing the scientific method and using experiments and our observations to help us answer questions helps us learn something new, make new discoveries, and actually help ask more questions to go continuing to discover about the thing we are curious about. Now that we've done our observation, our question, and we've made a hypothesis. That's our educated guess based on the observations that we had for the snake. Now we have to do our experiment. Now what I've done, because we're going to make this experiment kind of short, you could really study this kind of snake for hours and hours, is that I have this tree branch behind me. And because I think he lives in a jungle habitat, primarily in the trees, I want to see how the snake acts when it's on a tree branch, as if it was in the jungle. Mind you, there aren't all the leaves or other colors that we might find in its habitat, but at least we have the base. It's really hard to mimic nature when you're doing an experiment indoors. So we try our best to give whatever main materials we can. What I'm going to try to do is put this snake on this tree branch, and I'm going to need your help. What I'm going to do is we're going to just watch it for a minute, and I'm going to make sure it stays up on there okay, so everybody that's watching this video can see. And when you're watching this snake, this is your chance to continue writing or drawing the observations you notice. Is it still sticking its tongue out? Does it look like it's balancing on the tree, or is it falling off? Does it look like it's moving a lot, or not at all? These are all great observations to remember, because that's how we'll then get to move to the next or fifth step. Ready? Okay. What I'll do is I'll stick him on our tree here. I'm going to try to get his whole body on here, and then I'll make sure I can maneuver it so you guys can all see on the camera. And let's watch. Let's watch what this guy does. So far, looks pretty balanced so far. Looks like he's wrapping his tail around. Maybe it's like an anchor so he doesn't fall off. Now he's got himself coiled up around here. He's definitely exploring, taking in all the things that he can see. We'll try to get his head back up here so you guys can take a closer look at what he's doing. Maybe. It looks like he's really well camouflaged in here too. Ooh, there we go. Huh. Interesting. Watch how he moves. They don't have any legs, so they can't use limbs to help them balance. Oh, wow. Watch this. He just froze. He just stopped. Oh, he just started sticking his tongue back out again. Maybe he's ready to explore more. Let's try about 10 more seconds. Maybe something new will happen. Oh, and there he goes. He's going to go back down. Even back down to the lower branch. He caught himself, though. He stayed very balanced. Wow. Look how cool that is that he's moving like that. Now, some of the things that I am observing, I don't know if you guys are too, is that I'm noticing that he's had his tail here, kind of like an anchor to be able to hold his body on there. In fact, he's used a good chunk of his body to squeeze or hold on to the tree. And then he's using the front half to kind of maneuver around or explore. But he's yet to have fallen off, or he doesn't look unbalanced. Sometimes if you can watch really close when we get his head back up here too, you might notice how he sticks his tongue out. That usually means that snakes are just sensing their environment. They're just taking in all of the scenery. And so from there, that usually means he's not nervous or uncomfortable. In fact, he's able to even bring his body back down effortlessly without falling off, even after I move him. Now that would tell me as a scientist, wow, this snake looks really comfortable on this tree. He's gotta live in a tree habitat. And you might be thinking the same thing too. This goes to our fifth step. These are our results. What we do now is we share our observations or what we noticed this snake doing during our experiment. We noticed that he didn't fall off of the branches. He even sat here and froze and relaxed for a little bit on it. He kind of looked like a tree branch. He's also able to move on this tree really well, signifying that he's very comfortable in the space. From those results that we share, as he starts to move more, then we go to our sixth and final step. That's something we call our conclusion. And what that is we take our observations from our experiment and we put them in kind of a more formal sentence. This is us telling other scientists what we discovered. And based on the fact that the snake is comfortable, able to maneuver on these branches without falling off, and has pretty good camouflage, in my opinion, with the tree branches that we have here, this snake lives in a tree habitat. And if you were thinking that too, we're right. This kind of snake is called a Brazilian rainbow boa. In the light or when his scales are wet, they almost have a rainbow sheen on them too. Great camouflage if you live in a tropical jungle habitat. But there was one behavior that really helps us figure it out, and that's when he came up here and froze. See, this guy, he's a boa constrictor. And what that means is that he uses his muscle power to hold on to his food and squeezes them. But the other cool thing is that he's kind of a lazy predator, or a sit and wait kind of predator. What he'll do is he'll sit here on tree branches and he'll kind of freeze, almost like he's a tree branch. Sometimes they even move their face back and forth, kind of like this, like they're swaying in the wind as the tree branches move. And that way he's mimicking what a tree might be doing on a windy day. So that animals will land on those tree branches really close to him. And all he has to do is stretch out, grab his food, and then eat it right then and there. He doesn't even have to go actively looking for food, especially when he just looks like a great branch to go and rest on. So that behavior, not even just the physical things we're seeing, are all really great ways to be able to tell that he lives or is comfortable in the space. Look, he's even trying to recoil himself and anchor himself back up on this part of the tree branch. Now, this is just one of many questions that I have about this snake, and you're probably thinking of more questions too. What you can do then is write the other questions you have about this animal or about other snakes, even other things in science. Because now that we've gone through the 6 main steps of the scientific method, thanks to this snake and our experiment today, you can actually do things like this right in your home. Maybe there's something outside your window that you're curious about, or something that you discovered in nature that you have more questions. And you can think of an experiment that would work really well, even right in our own home. From there, if you guys have any other questions about the scientific method, about this kind of snake, or other animals or wildlife that we have here at the Lesley Science Nature Center, feel free to check our website or email us directly. We had a ton of fun being able to explore this guy and the scientific method with you. And you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks again for exploring with us.